It is Wednesday night again. This is the Wednesday night mouse party. And tonight we have Gizzard Gary. How you doing, Gary?
Man, it just don't get any better than this. Thanks for having me.
Also, Guns and Barbecue. How you doing?
Doing all right. Thank you for the invite. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen who are out there watching this at this super awesome hour in the morning.
And let me get the banner going because I remembered this time. At the bottom of the screen, there's an email address, untacticalfoss@gmail.com, and a link for the Discord server. Place to hang out, chit chat, share pictures, memes. You can get a hold of me there, or probably most people that come on the chat, you can get a hold of them if you want to. But and pinned at the top of the chat is a link for this week's poll. So if you haven't voted in the poll, head over there, give her a vote, and we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. And I was telling Barbecue that I went to Cabela's today to buy either a Heritage Rough Rider or a Ruger Wrangler. I was leaning towards the Rough Rider, or the Rough Rider. But I wasn't completely set on either. There's things I haven't really seen one, I haven't touched one in person, but looking at reviews and stuff, there's things I like about either. I do not like the safety on the Heritage.
Yes.
The probably overall look I like better on the Heritage, but there's something about the Wrangler, it looks a little beefier, and I like that look. But they're all Cerakoted, and you can get the Heritage with bluing, which, the barrel bluing looks nice. And I was standing there at the gun case looking at them and couldn't do it. Couldn't pull the trigger. I do not enjoy shooting 22 caliber handguns. Doesn't do it for me. So I didn't buy one.
Now, do you have anywhere where you can go and rent a firearm and try it out, Foss?
Not those ones.
I would say I didn't think so. I mean, of all things that somebody would rent out, like, would you really rent out a Rough Rider? Now, because I will say, like, have several Rough Riders for the kids. I've shot them. They're whatever. But for some reason, I find that when the barrel gets shorter on those, they become much more fun to shoot. And where I'm going with this is the Heritage Barkeep. And like, if you've got a Rough Rider with a 6-inch barrel or something like that, or even a 4 3/4 inch barrel, it's like, whatever, it's fun, but I'm just like, eh. But when you get down to like the Barkeep, man, if it's something about that gun, it's just fun. I don't know why. I was gonna say, if you had a place to possibly rent one and give it a try, might be worth spending a few bucks just to try that out and see if that might sway you for any reason.
I looked at it in the case. Barkeep. I don't like the look of the barkeeps. It's
The
they look
grips are kinda goofy on
unbalanced. Sorry, go ahead, Barbie.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say for revolvers, I like in general about 4-inch has the balanced look that I like. 6-inch, I've got the 7.5-inch 44 Magnum, but that was partly because that was there, and I was looking for big and obnoxious.
Yes.
So I ended up buying that one. But they have in the gun library, they have a couple used Blackhawks 357 that I always pause when I look at them, but then I have to tell myself, no, you don't need that. But the whole reason I wanted to buy one was the last person that I took to the range, she was very, very nervous. So usually I'll start with 380, but for her, I wanted to start with 22, and I've got the Keltec P17. But I would prefer to have a revolver to use instead of that semi-auto. And that was the reason that I want to buy one, but I just couldn't do it. I don't know.
So going back to the barkeep, they are kind of weird looking. And right now I'm trying to think, like, off balance. Honestly, they feel really good in the hand. At least I find them feel really good in the hand, and I wear an XL glove, so just for reference on hand size. But the grips are always like the goofiest thing on those for me. But I mean, it's a heritage. There's all kinds of aftermarket grips for it. If there is a Thunder on the Prairie next year, perhaps I will bring that along, or perhaps Gizzard Gary could bring his.
Absolutely.
G Webs, how are you doing tonight?
Third to Midland. Is this working now?
Yep, sounds good.
That's what she said.
Let's take a peek, see who's out there in the chat so far. Mr. Knives is out there. Vulcan Rumble is here. Mr. Bob Davalina. And I think that's everybody that said something. Mr. Knives says 38 Super shall rule them all. So, yeah, I don't know, because I got home and was thinking, well, shit, I should have just bought one while I was there. I don't know.
It's the price. It's a concern.
No, I had the cash on me. And it was the one I was looking at was like 176. Maybe 200 for if I got the different model. So price wasn't an issue. It's just I don't. I mean, there's a clear purpose for doing it. Yep, have a good night, Mr. Knives.
See you, Knives.
What am I gonna do with all the rest of this chocolate now?
Oh, guess you'll have to keep it for yourself.
Sounds like you can melt it down, take a bath.
I mean, there's clear reasoning for why I wanted to buy it. I just
you got Jedi mind tricked, is what happened.
I kind of did, and I mentioned it because just before I went, I told my wife what I was doing, and she kind of put that seed of doubt.
You don't even like revolvers, do you?
What's that?
You don't even like revolvers, do you?
Oh, that was loud.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
I misunderstood what you said. I do like revolvers. I own a couple.
So you don't have new people clean guns ever?
No.
So
The only one was a guy that I took out because he had a gun that he had it for a couple of years, I think, and had never shot it. It was his first and only gun. So after the range, I showed him how to clean it. Other than that, no. When I take people, it's just, it's just for them to go experience it, have fun, and then hopefully show them that it's not, not the big terrible boogeyman that the press and the left want to make it out to be.
one of the ways that they can create that illusion, that perception, is that guns are just this like other, right? Like guns are this like magical, what's that word, like token or something. So I don't know where you put this into introduction to firearms to people, but cleaning a gun is two things. One, it's the mechanics of it, and people, in my experience over the years, are either specifically interested in the mechanics, or like they become interested once they figure out like how guns come apart, and they figure out, oh, like, oh, every single gun comes apart differently. Like they're all these like different puzzles, right? They're all these different wondrous like machines. But then, so you know what I'm talking about there, like the whole like,
Yeah.
oh, these things are neat, but they're not just like, like cartoon drawings. Like they're actually machines, and like they're actually interesting. Like they all operate differently. So that's one way to like normalize guns, make guns real for people, because no one ever shows them, except for like maybe a clip in a movie where they're trying to be cool or something. They'll like take apart a gun, but for the most part, everyone just assumes all guns work always. And then the other side of that, which is the same side of the same coin or whatever, or I mean the other side of the same coin, is they're like tedious as hell, and they're like super hard to clean, and revolvers are the worst of everything, and nobody ever talks about that. I mean, I like revolvers, but I understand that cleaning a gun is annoying, and cleaning a revolver is even worse. And you can't even clean all of a revolver because half of the stuff is inside, and the worst revolvers get dirty where you can't clean them. So like that part of it, I think for some people would be like, oh, I don't want to wash dishes. I just want to eat the cuisine or whatever. Like, I just want to eat the thing and walk away. Like, I don't want to think about how hard it is to clean the dishes after. But other people, once they start cleaning, it opens up like a whole nother thing. Like, I don't know what to call that or how to identify those people. But some people, when they start to clean a gun, like that's like, again, for normalization and understanding and like, just making them a real thing. Like that's the number one way to do it, is just show them how to clean it. Or some people it's reloading, but for the most part, cleaning is like the way to show people, like, or for people that get to like become a gun owner, right? Like you're a gun owner when you own a gun, but you're really a gun owner when you know how to clean your gun and you like actually are willing to open it up and clean it. Anyway, so I don't know where to put that into like new owner introduction, but I don't know, no one ever talks about that stuff.
There's a lot of people, at least that I know of, that if I talk to them about cleaning guns or something, they say they find it therapeutic. Like they're able to just sit down. It's them, their bench, and the gun, and everything that's wrong in their world, everything else is gone, and they're able to just focus on that, which is a big thing. And then, like you said, G, there's some people that are like, hold on. I don't want to wash dishes. And that does kind of bring up another good point of, perhaps somebody's like, thanks, Foss, this was a great experience. And then they go get their own gun and they're like, hold on, I got to clean this thing. And they're like, I don't want to do that. It's lead and everything else, and caustic solvents, and but you can be like, wait a minute. You can actually take your gun to somebody to actually have them clean it. It's amazing. And then you're creating business for a local gunsmith as well. I've heard of some shops that will do it without a gunsmith, but most of their insurances don't permit that, at least around here. But so I mean, there's definitely something to be said by you know, if you want to introduce them to that side of it as well.
That was something that I had never even conceived of. After your, I forget who you had on, one of the ladies, when you had kind of interviewed,
Mhm.
that it came up that um, people didn't know how to clean their guns, and they would take them to somebody to clean them. It's like
Yeah.
I had never even would never have thought of taking it to somebody else to have them clean.
I
Yeah, same
actually
with
had.
watches, and some people like don't take their car. You know, like they'll take their car to a car wash. Like there's people that are, you know, just guns just another thing that's too complicated for them to deal with it.
Mhm. I have friends and family that still bring me guns. They'll come, hey, can you clean this for me? I'm like, whatever, I'm not doing anything else. And then you know, I'll just clean their gun. I don't get anything out of it other than, you know, it's a gun that's not mine, so I get to handle something sometimes that I've never handled, or you know, stuff like that. And one of the reasons they bring it to me is because they
That's
know
what she said.
I'm going over but they know I'm going over it with a fine tooth comb. I'm, you know, taking everything apart and, you know, really giving it a good once over.
That's something that they should do at gun shows. Well, I suppose it would be hard, but they could do it at gun shows,
They
especially
could-
like an
that,
ultrasonic tank or something. Like, give us your gun, we'll really clean it. Like, come back in 10 minutes or whatever.
oh yeah.
Yeah, when if I'm taking someone to the range who has never shot before, then before we go, then I'll have a few guns out and then explain the difference. You know, this is a revolver, this is semi-auto, and give them a thumbnail sketch of how they work. Have them hold them, you know, so when they're empty, so they aren't touching it when it's loaded for the first time. You know, when they touch them. But that's probably not a bad idea to maybe, you know, break down one of the semi-autos and then kind of show them basic parts inside them.
Especially if you got two, you know, like a Beretta in a 1911 or something, or a
Yeah.
Bersa. I'm thinking of a Bersa in a 1911, something with a barrel attached and something with the barrel loose, and then obviously a revolver you can't do nothing with. Like, see, this doesn't even come apart, really.
Vulcan Rumble is letting everybody know about that gun show in Marlboro that's coming up September 21st, 22nd. So that's
Vulcans in Maryland.
No, Massachusetts.
Oh, I didn't know there's a Marlboro, Massachusetts. My bad.
Mr. Bob Davalina said, I clean my guns, but I take an old 45 ACP to Smith for an armorer's cleaning.
Nice. I can understand that. I mean, some people have trouble with the barrel swivel and getting the slide stop back through. Best ones are people think they got it and they rack the slide and let go and the whole thing shoots off. You're like, oh crap.
Yeah, it's still 50 whether I launch the little end cap.
Right. I've seen where people just they want a good cleaning of everything in there, and there's a lot of parts in a 1911. I mean, it's not like a crap ton, but if you don't know what you're doing and you dislodge something, that could be a big repair bill. You know, and when I say a big repair bill, what, $100 at a gunsmith for him to go and pop something back in. But still, that's something that you could have just avoided by going and paying, you know, 20 or $30. Who knows what the going rate is now for a cleaning, and just get it done that way.
Mr. Bob said it was a first time deal. Had him clean it to start its life as a safe queen.
Like it.
Christopher Reed is out there and Carolina EDC Reviews. Good evening. Vulcan Rebel, what I do first is if I had a firearm with Cosmoline, I had an armor clean it out first simply because I'm not familiar with Cosmoline.
Well, whenever that happens, just take it over to Woods. He'll take care of that for you.
Woods loves Cosmoline, expert at getting it out. Like he is the man.
Well, he
Somebody clip that and send it to me, please.
smears it on his skin that keeps him young.
That and Blood of the Innocent and bacon grease. Any of those three will keep him alive forever.
But so after, I getting home from Cabela's, it's like, wow, God, I should have bought one. And then I'm still thinking about buying one. I don't know. I just don't know. The 2022. Which my Marlin 60, other than I need to take it apart, clean it, it's stovepiping. So I got to get in there and then root around, see if the ejector is bent or something. But I do really like that rifle. I just don't like 22 handguns.
All right, so if you don't get a 22 handgun, what about something, like 25 ACP revolver? Yeah, ACP revolver, that makes a lot of friggin' sense, but you know what I'm talking about.
I have a 25 ACP revolver made in Paris.
Yeah?
They do exist, yeah.
Look at that. Learn something every day.
There's actually a bunch of them. I've only was able to grab the one, but I have seen a couple of 25s throughout the years.
Nice.
Back in the olden days before the semi-autos became dominant. Anyway,
that or I was just gonna say a 25 or a 32, something like that.
Well,
Like an old break action.
The other side of that is they're tiny. So you bring out a gun to somebody and you're like, here's a gun that's 22 caliber and it's like a 1911 size, and then it's like, and here's a gun that's a 45 and it's the same size. We give somebody an AA, give somebody a Minx, a little Beretta that's tiny, that fits in the palm of their hand. They're obviously a spectrum of from inexpensive to super expensive of 22 semis, but if you get a small 22, so that when you're showing them a 22, they're like, wow, this thing's so small that it's like a whole different way of shooting this because it's so small. I don't know where those things are. They're small, but they're not tiny. You know what I mean? They're not NAAs. They're not like a 25 ACP is a revolver that's smaller than a J frame. So it's somewhere between a NAA and a J frame. Like they're physically smaller. Some of the 22s, like those bar keeps, they're small, but they're not, you know what I mean? They're not like tiny micro guns or anything. I don't know if that's good for a new shooter, but some new shooters, I don't know, again, like, did you know there was tiny guns and that they still work and that it's a whole nother level of neat? And then there's these, I don't know, do you have giant guns to bring? I don't think it'd be a good idea to bring a giant gun, but maybe just for orientation, like, and then see this gun, you're going to need to shoot a little bit before you just start shooting this one.
It all depends on their experience and
what they want to experience, right?
Yeah, because I'll lay out options and then ask them, tell them the caliber and say, do you want to try this? And then when we get there, as we start with the smallest and progress up, and then as we go, ask them, do you want to step up? Do you feel like stepping up to the next one, or do you want to stick with this? Do you want to go back to this other one? Or I don't. The whole thing is for it to be fun rather than to pressure them into trying something that, even if I think that they can, I might tell them that they can, but if it stops, that's number one thing when we're out there. I'll tell them, if you get tired or you stop having fun, let me know and we can stop at any time. The whole goal is for this to be fun, and so you can experience it. So if you're not having fun, let me know. So like the Carrie Ann, the last person I took out, she was very, very nervous to even touch a gun. Gave her before we went out, had her hold a revolver just so she can have touched it before we go out there and not be freaked out, and showed her it was unloaded, and she still was scared of it. And she kind of got over that, and she had fun. And I've talked to her. We'll probably at some point go out and shoot rifles. She wants to try rifles now. So I've got a few people that hopefully I can get out to the range here in the near future. Gunmetal Guy USA is out there.
So you want shooting to be fun for a new shooter, and then you bring out 9mm?
Well, actually, the last time we went out, I did not bring a 9.
Oh, okay, they're going good.
Well, technically 9mm Kurtz, but it's 380 designed by Browning, so I consider it different.
That's legitimate. It has an ACP at the end.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the poll. Let me get that screen up here. There it is. So this week's poll was: do you think ghosts are real? Yes, I've seen one. No, there's no evidence. I don't know, or I only believe in ghost guns. And yes, I've seen one. 34%. No, there's no evidence, 23%, and tied at 21% is I don't know, and I only believe in ghost guns. And looking at the comments, are there any real conclusive evidence that exists? And the ever-changing fuck you YT Mark 6. My toilet is haunted. Every time I sit on the toilet, I hear growls coming from it. The goddamn bacon said, I saw one once. You know what he said? I'm a ghost. Shafty said, I've actually got a pretty cool story about this. And I wanted to know what time the chat was. I was hoping he would make it, but he's over on the East Coast.
Oh, so am I.
And Vanessa Kitty, I think, was answering a different poll and commented in here, said the paper mill is the oldest one in the country. It used to be a sawmill for the King of England. There are some fun sights inside. I worked there for a while, so I'm not sure what she was answering. Night Strike said
that's a place in Massachusetts where a whole bunch of FFLs are in this old mill building. So it's like, imagine like an indoor mall made out of an old manufacturing building. So it's like old and interesting. And then you go in there and there's all these different FFLs, and a bunch of them are only open by appointment or like on weird hours. So from what I can understand, you walk through there and it's a lot of, essentially what we would call garage FFLs or home FFLs around here, like small shops that just do, almost work specifically for people or departments and stuff. Anyway, that's like I think it's still there. I know it's pretty famous, but I think it might have been persecuted by the current shenanigans in Massachusetts.
Night Strike said, if ghosts aren't real, how do you explain Ghost Tactical? And Gizzard Gary said, I have personally met ghosts several times. I can attest that he is, in fact, real.
I would just like to
stomach with your finger, though. So Just saying, you can see a ghost, but you keep poking the finger with your in the stomach with your finger.
I'd like to
Yeah.
explain from Night Strikes
No,
when
this
a man
Gizzard
and a
isn't
woman
saying
fall in
nothing,
love.
because I've never seen Gizzard poke Ghost in the stomach with his finger, so I'm just saying, never seen it happen.
I'm not sure how he'd react to that, to be honest.
He would probably giggle like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah,
At least a
like
human would.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Barbecue?
I was just going to say, I'd like to explain to Night Strike how you explain Ghost Tactical. And, well, when a man and a woman fall in love.
Yeah, what kind of prompted this was I was at work the other night, and while I'm working, there's periods of time where I'm alone in the building, and I was up in the break room, and I heard 3 loud knocks, knock, 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 and there are exterior doors kind of over by there, but they have distinctive sounds. I can tell if somebody's knocking on the roll-up door or the side door, because I know what those sound like, and this sounded different than those. And I've not heard the noise before, and there's mechanical stuff, the refrigeration units and stuff, which can tick and crack and pop, but it sounded different than that. So I walked the building, didn't see anything, didn't see anyone. I do not believe in ghosts, but it was just kind of one of those things where you think you're alone and you hear something, so it's like, shit, did somebody come in? Oh, what do you guys, do you believe in ghosts? Have you seen ghosts other than Ghost Tactical?
I believe in something. Is it necessarily ghosts? I don't know. Remember when I was like 12, my parents bought a house. Now, from what I understand, the church across the street had owned it, and the pastor, reverend, whatever they had, lived in the house. Now I don't know if that guy passed or if he was just no longer part of the church. And either way, the church decided to sell the house. My parents bought it. But my room was off of the main hallway and had its own little hallway back to it. It's secluded. It was nice because you had privacy. But off of my hallway directly was the upstairs bathroom, and that bathroom, you could walk out the door across my hallway into the main hallway. And on many nights, I would lay in bed, and from the bathroom light that was on, I could just watch shadows that looked like grown men walk across the hall. It was very weird, and every time it happened, I wouldn't move, I wouldn't make a sound. I don't have a good way to explain it. It was just a shadow that would just walk across.
I spent a summer as a janitor for a church. This kind of sounds like B movie stuff, but there was in the past 2 of the previous janitors turned out to be Satanists, and they would go up. There was a bell tower, which happened to align right over the altar at the church, and they would go up and do stuff, have their little ceremonies up in the bell tower. And then after, I'm not sure how long before I was there, but the guy that I kind of replaced as a fill-in, that I went crazy, and ended up in a mental institution. And I did not go crazy or hold satanic rituals, but it was, it's an old building, and the creaks and pops, and I had like a 5-minute standoff with an empty bathroom stall because I swore somebody was in there. So I'm standing out with I was mopping. So I'm standing there with a mop trying to decide, do I kick open the door? Do I wait? There's nobody in there. It's just the building creaking. But it's kind of the creepy and you freak yourself out kind of thing. But how about you, Gary? G-Webs?
There's this old house I lived in back in the early 80s. And one night we heard noises upstairs and stuff like that. And I think it was the same night we heard a crash in the middle of the night. We found out that a whole cabinet had fallen down. A cabinet full of dishes had fallen down off the kitchen wall and ended up clear on the other side of the kitchen. And then we went somewhere and we came back home. It had snowed that night. We looked up on the side of the roof. It's an old antique house, like built, 1900s or so. So it had a fairly steep pitched roof. And up on the roof, you could see that there was what appeared to be a set of footsteps going right up the side of the roof. It's like, how in the world? Because it's a 2-story house. How did somebody get that high? And how did they take those steps without slipping and falling? And it's like, okay, this place is weird. We need to get the heck out of here. Type thing. We never actually saw said ghost or anything like that, but there were certainly signs of paranormal going on around there. Let's put it that way.
House I grew up in, it was a 2-story house. It was built in the 70s, I think it was. And when at night, as it would cool down, the house would settle, and you would hear the stairway creak. And, it would sound just like somebody was walking upstairs, but, it would happen every night. And you knew what it was. And also the chimney, when the house would settle, the chimney would kind of make a loud bang, and the metal lining would rattle. And you'd swear it sounded just like the chimney fell into the house. You got any Arizona ghost stories there, G-Webs?
No, but not. That's just because I don't go around looking for them or whatever. But I think that if we've got multiple types of physical situations, so the Big Bang, if you start there, everything, they say that everything starts from one spot and expands outward from it, and everything they've done to date the time of the the universe would be based off of the movement from that center. So if you think about that, you got a bunch of stuff coming out of one center. I don't know where we are. Let's say we're at 3:00, just to put it somewhere, due west or east or whatever that would be. Something is going to be opposite us, right? Like there's all kinds of stuff to our sides, but something is opposite us, and there's not enough time in the time that's existed for even a particle of light to go from one side of the whole universe to the other side of the whole universe. So that's called a particle horizon, and that's the first multi-universes. Like, so in other words, just in our existing universe on the other side of it, there's going to be stuff that we can never know about because of the nature of space and time. Like we can't get over there, and there hasn't been enough time. There won't be enough time for us to be able to get over there. So we have to know that there's other things happening that we'll never know about. And that's just that's easy to conceptualize, right? But as you get into different layers of multi-universes, either mathematically or theoretically or whatever, some of them have us branching. So things like the Terminator and stuff, like different timelines and all that. So if you think of all these different universes that are multi-universes that are happening, some theories are that when you make a decision or when something has to be decided, or there's these branches, and those aren't necessarily physically on the other side of the universe. Those are, I don't know how to explain it, but in a different dimension essentially. And that's where I come back to the ghost thing. Like, if we understand that physically there's lots of stuff going on, and that some of it might be happening on top of each other in different realms, if we think about how much room is in an atom, what's all that space in between? Anyway, I think it could be something like that. And when I don't know, you're in a building and you see something like a window or something, and you can see like a shadow of what's going on, or a reflection, or whatever it would be called, of like what's going on outside the window in the reflection on the floor, on the carpet. So what I'm talking about? Like, you're seeing a sunset or something, but now you see the sunset on the carpet of the room because of the way that the glass is refracting. We don't go, oh, there's a ghost sunset. We just understand it. But like what Barbecue was talking about, seeing weird kind of images, shadows, something, out of the corner of your eye. It's not what do they call it? Peripheral vision, but it's, what I mean? It's like, I'm not seeing this in the corner of my eye, but I'm not seeing this either. I don't know if they're not seeing some shadow of that or some reflection of that. And that would freak the fuck out of you if you don't know what's going on, right? So I think that there's some of that. And then the other side of it is we act like we know everything because we act like we know everything, but in reality, we don't know shit. So the closest thing I've seen to anything like that would be hanging out in reservations back in the old days when I was a kid. I hung out on reservations a lot, and they have more, what's the word? Like, they don't question their stories. They just have stories. And some of those stories involve things that are whatever you want to call, like, not along the normal lines of physics and stuff. And I think that when you get to cultures that aren't trying to wrap their head around the whole damn thing, that can be okay with the reflection of the sunset on the carpet and not try to understand it, that's where I think we see it too. So I think that there's stuff out there that we're not going to see because we can't. Like, we're refused to put it in our, what do you call it? Like our system of organization. Like, if something comes along and it's just wrong, we're not going to see it. And some people are because they haven't got that construct. And then I think some of it is shadows and stuff. So anyway, I think there's scientific explanations for some of it. I just don't claim to know the scientific explanations, but I can understand that there's potentially scientific explanations for it. And then the other stuff, I understand that it's real, and I don't look for scientific explanations for some of it.
I think if it, there's a theory that ghosts are when the barrier between basically our universe and the multiverse, our universe and another universe, it thins out a little bit, then you're seeing that other universe.
Right. Sort of like when you're watching TV stations in the old days on UHF or something, and you're, turning the dial in between stations, you're seeing both stations at the same time, right? Like, they're both on the TV, but they're would be happening normally, but something happened and you're smushing them together a little bit. And maybe that's a magnet, or maybe it's the sun coming up, or maybe it's when the planets are close enough to each other that creates the shadow or the light, and you see that thing. And then there's people that sat around for hundreds and dozens of years figuring that out, and they don't try to explain it. They just know that when these two planets come next to each other, you can see Uncle Bob over there.
And I used to like watching ghost hunting shows. I couldn't stand the ones where they're doing reenactments and stuff, but ghost hunters. I didn't believe any of the stuff that they're doing, but for some reason I liked watching it.
Well, some of it's, I think, can be intriguing. Like, some of those ghost hunting shows, I'm just like, oh my god, like the scripting is so obvious because the people that they're getting are not cream of the crop actors or anything. And then like some of the people that they're getting are legitimately interested in paranormal activity and trying to do research, but to make a TV show out of it, they script it to death. And I can understand, like, they probably like, hey, we got to make this interesting because you guys aren't finding shit for us to put on air. So like I get those dynamics, but I just like hearing the stories. There's just some things I don't think we'll ever truly know about in life, or afterlife or anything like that. And if people want to believe in something, whatever, it doesn't bother me. What I should say, it doesn't affect my life. Therefore, it doesn't bother me. So if somebody wants to believe in God or believe in ghosts, or believe in the Mayan sun god, and probably shouldn't sacrifice people to volcanoes and rip out their hearts with sharp stones. Like, probably shouldn't do that. But it just, like, one of the things G-Webs was mentioning about other civilizations and native tribes, things like that. They're very in touch with a spiritual being, or beings for that matter. Now you could say that this is because a lot of those tribes, things like that, were using hallucinogens and whatnot, which could be something. But there's also people that are now starting to believe that things like ayahuasca, acid,
Peyote.
other things like that, and peyote, yeah, that they could actually help unlock a realm of the brain that we just have kind of turned off, which that really fascinates me in that respect. When you think about the human brain, there's so much that we are still learning about it, things like that. So just to think, there's so little we know about ourselves at the end of the day. Like you guys are saying, like we think we know, but at the end of the day, if we're being realistic, real science is going to be like, yeah, we just know the tip of the iceberg. And so to think that there couldn't be a multiverse, there couldn't be another realm, whatever you wish to call it, it's not something I'm willing to just discount. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, definitively yes, but heck, look at the ocean. We've explored what, overall 3% of it. That'd be like saying, oh, there's no other aquatic life than what we've already discovered, and then we discover something new.
Well, don't they say that we've explored more of the moon surface than the ocean surface?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
ocean bottom?
Yes.
Larry Knopf is out there. I went to the range with Larry the other
Nice.
day. And we'll show a little bit. There's a little bit of Gorn. We'll show in a little bit. And we'll show his granddad's shotgun, which I really liked.
I like the sound of that.
Vulcan Rumble asked, does Cosmoline dissolve in citric acid?
What's he trying to get Cosmoline off of?
If you got rid of Cosmoline with lemon juice, then, and no one figured that out all those years, then that would really bug a lot of people. I don't think it's dissolvable by anything, though. So many people have been trying to get it off of stuff forever. You know what I mean? If it was lemon juice, if it was that easy, somebody would have come up with it. I mean, I don't want to say I've tried, but I just like to think that that it's not that easy.
Never Enough Ammo. He'll he'll put the gun in a black plastic bag and leave it in the Texas sun to melt
That's
off.
what I was going to say. Black plastic bag always works. Leave it muzzle down. Try and secure it in a corner nicely or something, depending on if you can just if you have a place where you can just leave it out in the sun, that's going to be hot and everything, works great. But say you live in the Northeast like I do, especially in the winter, black trash bag, awesome, but put a space heater in front of it, and have it at a safe distance where it's not going to melt the bag, because that's a nightmare. But just that heat radiating off a space heater will thin that out and let it melt down to the bottom of the bag, and then it's just a matter of some of your smaller components inside, giving those a good scrubbing after.
How did the Russians, when they pulled it out, did they just hand it to them and shoot the Cosmoline off, or do you know, G-Webs? Was there a practice to clean it?
Oh, I was not here. What was the question?
Oh, do you know what did the Russians do if they pulled something out of storage? Did they just hand it to the soldier and they shot off the Cosmoline, or did they have a practice for cleaning?
Oh, it's interesting. I don't think they ever did. I think just the Chinese did. Is there anything Russian? I guess maybe some of those.
I just figured all the commies used Cosmoline.
I'm assuming they dumped it into gasoline or something simple. Just soak it in gasoline or something. But I don't know if they were putting stuff up after the end of the wars, so I don't know if they ever. They must have, but I don't know if they ever. What's the word? Like had a. Where they. What's the word I'm looking for? Like where they went into production of repurposing them, or bringing them out of service, back into service or whatever. I think they just retired them like that.
Oh,
but I don't know.
I don't remember where we left off last time we did it. So I was just going to start with Gizhigiri's shield and 30 super carry. Have you had that out to the range?
No.
How does it shoot?
I have not.
Does it feel good overall? Is
Yeah.
it comfortable?
Yeah.
Oh, you bought a super carry?
Mm-hmm.
For if you wanted to? You
Mhm.
bought it?
Yep. Curiosity.
Because of Clover.
No. This poor Clover got his, I think.
Oh, okay. Then he got
Because
it
they
because
were dirt cheap.
Federal invented super carry, so they make it in all their flavors, all their companies.
Yeah, I made sure and picked up some ammo.
You got the name for the guy, the contact from Federal?
Uh-uh.
I'll give it to you in the thing so that you can have him on and maybe get some free in.
This was Mr. Bob Dabalina. Said his first gun box. It was a Colt 45 national match. Heritage 22 with the spare cylinder. The 22 long rifle and 22 mag. 1915 Colt 3220 police positive. And Taurus PT 111 G2 9mm.
That's I dig that. You see so many range bags now where everybody just sticks them into pockets that you never see no guns, like back in the day having a nice briefcase like that with the foam. being able to see all your guns when you go to an indoor range. It's pretty handy.
I've thought about making one.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy them, but yeah, you can make it out of anything, really. It just has to be strong enough to hold a bunch of guns. You know, sometimes a briefcase will be flimsy by the time you put a bunch of guns in it.
Yeah, every once in a while, I'll be at Salvation Army or something, and I'll look for a old briefcase where I could throw something together like that. Because I figure Salvation Army probably find the briefcase for, $3, maybe $5.
Yeah, and like an old Samsonite where it was like made to be a real thing, like that would work.
Mm-hmm.
Ours were Caldwell's or some company.
And 25 ACP Raven.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Second MP25.
see, this would be awesome for take somebody to the range post. I mean, I know you want a revolver, not a auto, but
That's not a good gun to take people to the range with. It's
They
too
did.
Just
No, they're-
25.
Yeah, but see how the trigger guard is? That's your finger. And then the rest of the grip is your other finger. You know what I mean? Like, look at how big that
Yep.
grip is, the trigger guard. They're neat guns and everything, but it's kind of like shooting a ring. You know what I mean? Like, you got to hold it with 2 fingers. And they're heavy. So, I mean, if you haven't shot one, they're heavy and, because they're made out of Zamak and all that. So they're just not what people are, they're untypical of a regular gun. So while they're okay. And then the problem is that they are what they are. There's like 13 pieces and 13 parts in there. So it's easy for a part to get bent or goofy and the triggers get shitty real quick. So the inconsistent trigger and the difficulty holding on to it, I think that's kin to giving somebody like an NAA revolver or a 500 Smith & Wesson revolver. It's just too extreme for somebody who's trying to figure it out for the first time. I think if it got somebody who can handle recoil and they appreciate history of guns or mechanics of guns or materials at all, or just want to shoot an awesome, like a 25 ACP, small like that, then immediately give them one. But I'm saying for like your typical person who's like apprehensive, I think it's just too much like, oh, I want to mow the lawn. You're going to give them like a nice electric lawn mower that they don't have to think about. You're not going to give them an old push mower that they have to like master the machine before they can even cut grass with it. But I'm not want to shit on them. I like these guns, but I also acknowledge where they are. They're like fire extinguishers.
Oh, they're classic cool. And then this was I saw at the Cabela's. PPKS Exquisite.
Oh my God. $1,800.
Yeah. It's pretty though. That's why I took a picture of it. And then this was just I put a Tasco scope on my Marlin. Just because.
Everything about this photo makes me happy. Marlin, Tasco scope, like, it's terrific.
I thought moss is supposed to grow on the north side of these trees, and these trees are facing each other with moss growing at each other. So what's going on?
Whoever started that? Because, like, that is a great way to just get somebody completely lost and killed.
I don't know. There's probably some places where it works.
In the Northwest, there's moss everywhere.
Right. There's places where moss is on all sides. But it's also going to grow more on the one side, but whatever.
Out on the old family farm, we have a literal field that we just call the moss field because it's just a field of moss on the ground.
North is up.
And then this is the TH40 that I recently bought.
So jealous.
40.
Yep.
Minus the 40 part.
I bought it to carry, and it is carry wise, it is very comfortable to carry. I was surprised. It's more comfortable to me than my CZ75 compact to carry. Not a huge fan of the sights, but they work. I still need to do the review on it. I just have been lazy. Haven't gotten around to it. I've got
Lazy. What do you think you are? Guns and barbecue? Come on.
I have a TH9, which is basically the same gun in 9, and there are good budget options. And then this was Larry's granddaddy's shotgun, Ithaca Model 37. I believe it's a lightweight. It is a beautiful gun, I think.
That is gorgeous. Good golly.
And it's 12 gauge. And I really think it is the lightweight because it kicks like a mother. It's nice it has the recoil pad because it kicks harder than my Security 88. And we were just shooting birdshot. I'm pretty sure I had birdshot that I took. But it is a very nice gun. And he looked up the serial number, and I think he said it was from the 30s. There is a short on the I put out the other day of us shooting it.
If it was made pre-1934, I'd cut the barrel off to like 16 inches, and then there's nothing anybody can do about it. You got them in a technicality.
Larry said 38, 1938. But I love the look of that curly maple stock. Yeah, the engravings are nice. One side has a dog and pheasants, and the other side has ducks engraved on it. But we had fun. Shot that a little bit.
You just shooting at a paper there with slugs or something, or
Yeah, just paper.
they got a range, something like there, a skeet or trap or something there?
No, it's just a rifle range. We shot at, I had target set up at 50 yards, shot at that, and pretty big spread at 50 yards, but
They let you shoot at frames with shot. A lot of ranges will say you can shoot a shotgun, but slugs and don't hit our frames. But they don't want you shooting buckshot.
well, they've basically got a clothesline at 50, 100,
Wow.
And then you can hang your targets off that.
Going across left to right, or going like in a indoor range, going from you out?
Oh no, left. It goes across the range.
Okay, like a clothesline, and everybody's hanging off the
Yeah.
clothesline.
But it was pretty accurate because it hit. Had my target, and then next to it, somebody had left a target, which there's only like one hole in that target. So, but it hit both targets, but it hit the target. So I've considered it fairly accurate. Took out, had an AR out there because I was shooting some of that polymer 5.56 just to try it out, and didn't know.
Bullets that can go through radar detectors.
Well, no, it's the casing is polymer, and I didn't notice any difference. What's that?
Bullets that cost more than you make in a month.
Just about. For a box of 20 was $25, and then there's also a 308, but those are over $30. I forget how much they were. If it catches on, the price has to come down because it's polymer. As if the production ramps up, the cost will come down.
You know, the cost will come down if the military adopts it. Then they'll really make it.
Yeah. And then this is the.
It's got potential because it weighs less. So for some reason I went to
Yeah,
556.
it's noticeable
Yeah.
when you pick up the box. I mean, you notice right away how light it feels.
Imagine like a truck or a magazine or a loadout changed like that. Like it makes some sense.
Well, I don't know though, because the last few years, everything I've read is the military is looking to go back to a heavier round.
Well,
Well,
that's the
what
difference between the people that are only worried about the effectiveness downrange and then everybody else who's worried about all the stuff it takes to get somebody in a position to take that shot downrange. You know, like all the trucks and supply routes to get the ammo to that guy. That's the money right there.
With what I've read over the last few years, after Iraq and Afghanistan and the fighting that was happening, they think it would be better to have a heavier mid-range round.
Well, that's you get into like the 8.6 stuff. Heavy and shorter barrel.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Beretta APX A1 Carry that I also picked up in 9mm.
You bought that gun?
I did. Partially.
You don't think that's lopsided, but the barkeep is lopsided.
Well, I've told the story. I had bought the Sig Romeo Zero red dot, but I didn't have a gun that's cut for red dots. And then saw this because of AAF, American Ammo and Firearms, had shown this deal where I got this for 180 after rebate, $180. So I picked it up so I could put the red dot on it. I got the plate for it, came today. So I've got all the stuff, and eventually I'll get the red dot put on it, which it kind of needs it because it shoots like 6 inches low at 20 yards. Amazingly low. But it works. It functions. You know, goes bang in the good way.
If only it had a larger trigger guard and a more square trigger guard.
Well, it's a normal trigger guard. It's just a very small gun.
I guess you don't have much for reference there.
So I'll do a review on this when I get around to it. And
they make them in other colors.
Yeah. The gray was the cheapest, so I got the gray. But when Cabela's has them, they're selling them for like $320, and you know, like I said, for 180, I couldn't pass it up.
I could have passed it up.
And I think they were through everything. All the Gorn.
Did it have a front sight, and you just didn't have like just the angle of it?
Yeah, it does have a front sight. You just can't see it in the picture.
Do you have other Berettas in that gray color?
That's my first and only Beretta.
Oh, I think I only have one Beretta right now.
Let's go back to comments a little bit. Mr. Bob had said, I just saw a forum that said they used diluted citric acid to clean Cosmoline from cars before washing and detailing. Others said heat gun to melt the bulk, then kerosene to clean. And Hoppy said Hoppy's number 9 is kerosene based. Maybe that's why it tastes so good. M. Gabriel said, here, the moss predominantly grows on the north side, but not always. And DM is the only one in this room who can safely handle 40. And Fuku YouTube is
You're like one of those snake religions. You like you walk all around and dance around with with a bunch of 40s wrapped around you.
No, but in the quiet times when I'm alone, I might rub them on myself. Vulcan Rumble said, I think the PX4 SC is still better looking gun. I don't like the look of them. I like the idea of it. The rotating barrel, and everybody I've heard talk about them says they shoot very nice, kind of low recoil, but to me, they're ugly. That's kind of the main reason I never bought one, was I don't like the way it looks.
There's a lot of things Beretta does that I don't understand. I figure they're just a company that has been around for 500 years. Pretty soon we have to start saying 600 years. And then they sell to the whole world, and America is not their only audience. You know what I mean? Like, they don't make everything for us and then worry about the rest of the world. I think they're making their own guns, and that it seems so different to us. I had a question about the bracket for tonight. When does that start?
No, I tilted the bracket, so I'm waiting for it to reset. I got a little too aggressive with it, and it.
I thought you had a whole support system, so that wouldn't happen anymore.
No, it's hard to find good help. Nobody seems to want to stick around. So we have to wait for the tilt to reset.
I seen a whole rebuild kit on Temu for like $14, and you can rebuild any bracket, they said.
Yeah, but it's Temu, so would you really trust your life to a Temu bracket?
And do you want to support the Chinese Communist Party? It's going to take like 3 months to get here. I mean,
Everybody in the bracket also has to give them your social security number.
Maybe when Guns and Barbecue starts his new chats, he can have brackets on his.
yeah, that's not happening as soon as I would like. I've got to figure out something for my audio stuff. I mean, obviously I could just do it off my phone, but I really don't want to do that. Plus, now seeing what the price hikes are going to be for StreamYard, I'm like, really don't know if I want to do StreamYard. So I'm gonna.
There's another one that we're all going to go to. I have to remember I have to go do that. What time? What's the date?
Nice. So, like,
I forget what it is. It's like Stream Player or something. It's also got stream in the word.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say, because almost doubling the price, I was like that. Like, I understand. Oh, we just bought this place. We need to recoup our money, but doubling the price seems like a really good way to drive a lot of people away, because they're not the only show in town.
Dude, the competitor one is cheaper and it does more. So yeah, we've all been on StreamYard because we have. Like, now they messed up, because now everyone's going to go figure out that there's a cheaper one.
We gave them their 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I went the other day. I was looking at the StreamYard, and every so often I'll think about upgrading, and that's when I found out about the price hike. It's like, holy crap! No.
Dude, it wasn't worth 25. Like, I was already. I don't think it's worth 25 right now.
Vulcan Rumble's asking, do you think modular design was a success or failure? I think it's a success.
Are you talking about Beretta? Or are you talking about like SIG?
I was guessing the SIG.
Because can modular be successful? I think it will ultimately be successful. Has it been successful? No. But that's because a bunch of people have weird ideas and opinions.
It was SIG who did it first with the P250, wasn't it?
320.
Well, I don't know.
No, the P250 was out
Commercially, maybe.
light years before the 320. The P250 is hammer fired.
Commercially, maybe, but I'm guessing there's probably a couple of examples of guns that were going that way but didn't do it with the chassis yet.
Yeah.
And then there's things like High Point, which were just, not wasting a bunch of time rebuilding stuff that didn't need to be rebuilt. So it kind of, they have a lot of interchangeable parts type of thing, but not because of that, but it's a side effect of that.
Ooh, can you imagine modular High Points? That would be cool.
Yeah, kind of would be neat.
Don't give High Point any ideas. They couldn't even complete the Yeet cannon. So disappointing.
It's done.
Is it actually out though, or is it
Yeah.
just old?
Yeah, it's out.
That gun's been around for a while.
C9 that they silk screened.
It's been out a year or so.
Yeah, that was a
upgrade.
missed opportunity.
Huge missed opportunity.
And from what I heard, people say, it was just problems getting it designed that held everything up. But if they could have got it out when the whole Yeet thing was hot,
Well, the thing is, I mean,
they built all their guns back in the olden days, and now it's 2020, whatever, and they're having to do it all with computers. It's not like they just take the old computer file and plug it in and adapt it. They had to make computer files. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all their stuff was drawings, probably.
But still, they put out like a prototype and like this was going to be coming, and then it just never materialized. It's supposed to have a barrel, go from single stack to double stack, which I realize there's going to be some engineering things that they've got to change when you're changing from a double stack or from a single stack to a double stack. They're putting a red dot cut on it, all kinds of stuff. And I was like, that's really cool. And, like I said, they're like, here's the prototype, all that. It's going to be out in a year. And then they just whiffed.
Well, what do you think about the doing the YT1 as a stopgap? Just relabeling the existing gun.
Are you talking about when they silk screened the C9s?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To just say Yeet cannon? That annoyed the ever-loving dog crap out of me.
People bought them, though.
Well, and they almost... Oh, what was that company? I cannot think of it. I think it starts with a B, and I could be wrong, but they took in
Beretta.
No. It was that SHOT Show the one year, I guess, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is no." It was this like no name thing, but people were going crazy about it, and they made the first generation. There were some problems, and so they announced the second generation. They're like, "This is going to fix all the problems," and they completely shot themselves in the foot because nobody bought the first generations that they still had because of
that low bore axis one out of Texas.
I think so.
I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
I really like the look of those guns.
But they completely shot themselves in the foot when they said this is going to fix the issues, and people went, "All right, well, I'm not buying the old one."
Oh, I was thinking Hudson.
I think that's what it was. That's it, because I was thinking Brooklyn and Hudson River. That makes sense for me. Probably the word association. So, yeah, Hudson sounds right. But High Point almost did that to them. I'm not saying like High Point was going to go out of business, but there for a little while, nobody was buying the old High Points because it had so much stock, which is one of the things I heard was the issue getting the Yeet Cannon out. They're like, we got so much stock of the old stuff, we got to get this sold first before we actually roll this out. Which I was like, you guys should have thought about that.
Yeah, I really like the look of the Hudsons.
SHOT Show is, it's an industry show, so they will often put stuff, especially back in the day. I mean, maybe not so much now because of stuff like this, but they'll put stuff at SHOT Show and just kind of, because they got a bunch of gun shop owners, manufacturers, other people, and they'll put it out on the table and be like, "What do you think of this?" Taurus has definitely done this over the years and gone like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I guess Keltec has done it a couple of times. Trying to think of like other companies that are willing to publicly put something out there, but it's essentially like those cars that the concept cars that they'll put out at car shows. Like nobody expects it to be there next year, but you get an idea of like what they're thinking, and then they can tell their people like, "Hey, can you build holsters for this? Like, how long would it take? Or like, can you build magazines for these bodies or whatever? Like, how long would that take?" And they're kind of doing their behind the scenes stuff at SHOT Show. And now that there's so much media that's so fast, because back in the day, if they did all that stuff and the media didn't come out till 8 months later, there was no real issue. But now when the media goes out, I mean, I can think of lots of guns, or I can think at least 3 times when we would show something at SHOT Show, they'd have to pull it from the table before the end of the show because the reaction they were getting. And I think, they should, you're right. There's probably they should have expected it because it's 2020 or whenever it was, or 2018 or whenever that was. They should have expected it. But at the same time, I think they might have just been like, "Hey, what do y'all think?" and not expect it to, they didn't anticipate it going as viral or as big as it did.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, it was High Point that actually said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this out in a year," and everybody's like, "All right." And then that year came and passed, and here we are 4 years later. And I mean, Gary just said it came out last year, so but it still took him 3 years. And like Foss was saying, that
Before COVID, though, wasn't it?
No,
it might have been
COVID.
It was during COVID? I thought it was before COVID.
I was at the SHOT Show where they announced it. So,
What year was it?
2020 was the first year I went.
Oh, okay. What, you didn't go the first year in 2020?
Wasn't it?
No.
You sure?
Yeah. You had to go in like 19 or something.
Because
2020. Well,
I got COVID the first time I attended SHOT Show.
but I'm saying, well, everybody gets the credit or whatever. But are you talking about going as yourself or going period?
No, going period.
Dude.
2020 SHOT Show would have happened right before the shutdown.
Everything fell apart right after. And like,
yeah.
I thought you had been going for a couple of years before all that. And I could be wrong. Maybe it just felt like you were there, but I thought you were there before that. Because didn't you go with Bob? Weren't you at SHOT? Oh.
No.
Well, I guess it's possible when you went to SHOT Show more than we do, but
Yeah, the Hudson Daniel Defense is now making the H9.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's going to be way overpriced. And then, there's questionable comments that the owner of Daniel Defense likes to zing off every blue moon.
They have it on their website for $12.99.
Yep. Like I said, overpriced. At the end of the day, it's still a polymer 9mm. And say half of that is just people paying for the Daniel Defense name.
Oh, they say made in the USA, backed by a Daniels 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Oh.
So, well, I might as well show the gun for anybody that might not know which one we're talking about exactly, but that's the H9. I think the original, I don't remember it having the rail.
I say I didn't remember having a rail either, but I mean, really, why not utilize the space?
Looks wise, I prefer no rail,
Yes.
but I don't. I mean, I only have one gun light on one gun.
I say, I know like Masad Ayub and what's his face all caught crap when they were talking about having lights and crap on your guns are overrated, which I think to an extent it is. Everybody and mother has to have every freaking doodad on their EDC. And I'm like, how often are you out at night in the first place? I can understand, like, if you had a truck gun or car gun, whatever you want to call it, and like that gun's in your vehicle religiously, and you want to, you know, have a light on that just in case you're driving home late one night. But, you know, overall,
Nah. So it's dusk is worse than dark. Dark is annoying, but dusk is where things get obfuscated. Like, you know, you think you see them, but you're not. Dusk is
Yeah.
horrible. Everything turns gray and colors disappear. So turning dusk into daylight is a superpower. And then inside of buildings, everybody acts like we only walk around either in broad daylight or at night. And that's not the case. We go into giant buildings that don't even have fucking windows. Sometimes they have a door with windows on it, but usually those are full of signage. So we walk into buildings and, oh, there you go. We walk into buildings. That's pretty good Photoshop. That was quick Photoshop work there, Gizzard.
That was my very first one. So
But you know what I'm saying? When we go into buildings and stuff, and then, you know, again, like, oh, the lights are on in the building, except for when something gets horribly wrong. And that's when I want to be able to turn nighttime into daylight and know what my targets are and what's behind it.
The dusk is absolutely a thing.
yeah.
There's a huge difference between being out on dusk where it's just getting dark, so it's hard to see, and when it's dark and your flashlight's going to work. I stopped on the highway one time. The gal had spun out. So I stopped to help her, and it was, I think it was actually dawn. I think I was on the way home, but same kind of light conditions. And the flashlight I had, I thought was a good flashlight that I kept in my car. Well, it worked great if it was dark.
Yep.
But it was absolutely useless in that kind of dusk dawn condition. I learned a valuable lesson. You know, I quickly switched out that flashlight for something a lot better.
okay.
But then, I mean, then that gets into the debate of, you know, should you be, and two, do you want to be using a weapon light as a flashlight? Obviously, if you think there's a threat, it's one thing, but if you're just trying to figure out what's that, you know, that's got bad news written all over it, especially if it's something that startles you, and then you have a sympathetic negligent discharge. I don't know. Even all my years working security, you know, I was in some low light conditions, you know, factories where for whatever reason they just wanted security there on the days that they didn't have people at the facility at all. And you would get into some areas and you're hearing some weird noises and, you know, pull out a flashlight. I understand, like, there are things you want to light up, but overall, you know, out of all the situations in my life, I can't think of one where I was like, man, I'm glad that I had this light mounted to my pistol.
So Gary said the High Point YC9 was introduced in 2019. Prototype shown at SHOT Show in 2020, but did not go to market until 2023.
Those rat bastards.
Well, then I would say, what the hell? Like, they had to deal with the world falling apart, and the last thing they're going to do is be like, let's keep our time frame on this thing. Like, that was everybody. That was the whole world going into weird chaos. Like,
Yeah, but
Sorry.
I want it, and I
Yeah.
want it now.
As I remember looking at the original prototype in 2020 and thinking, cool. They said it'd be out later this year and never showed. Of course, we didn't go back to SHOT Show until 2022, and the prototype was still there. And we asked, well, when's it going to be live? Soon. Same answer in January 2023. Soon. After a while, people just quit going to their booth and even checking on it. The first year or two, everybody was asking a question, and then people just got tired and quit asking. So yeah, the ship had sailed by that time.
Yeah. Like I said, I heard that part of the reason that they delayed it was because they had so many of the C9s, and like people had already stopped purchasing them when the Yeet cannon was announced, because they're like, oh, I want the Yeet cannon. Like, why would you want to buy a single stack High Point when you can buy a double stack High Point? Like, even if it didn't have the threaded barrel, even if it didn't have an optics cut, like just going from single stack to double stack, that's a big deal. Especially when the gun you're carrying is already a brick. And like, because I had the same thought, like, you know, like everybody, they had to deal with the world falling apart. You know, to this day, last I knew, at least, which I mean was only several months ago, Henry still uses the pandemic for them being behind, but they had to shut down their factory for a year. High Point's made in Ohio. Ohio was one of the states that was like, no, these are essential. And if we remember, there is a high point of, no pun intended, of gun sales going on in 2020 where they could have capitalized even more. Now you could say, you know, maybe they had trouble getting metals, things like that, perhaps. You know, supply chains were broken. But again, 3 years, it's a tough one.
Well, a lot of companies were having trouble getting their employees to the factories then because of travel restrictions and everything else during 2020. For a while, they had to shut stuff down. So supply chains kind of
that's what I was saying.
haywire then too.
Yeah.
2020 was a weird year for everybody.
I was issued travel papers, so I could show my papers if I got stopped.
Peppers.
I was declared to be essential personnel where I worked, so I was allowed to be on the road.
Oh, G-Webs. Mr. G-Webs.
Was the bracket working again? We're starting the bracket up?
No, still waiting.
No.
Is there anything you would like to plug? Anything you got coming up?
No, but let's see. She Fires does a show often on Sunday afternoons. It's worth checking out of Florida.
Yes, She Fires an awesome lady. She started out just wanting to document her journey into firearms, and now is a trainer and is helping other people through their journey. It's a great lady.
And now she's showing, her other interests and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to see people come and be a YouTuber, be willing to share their gun story, and then do it for more than a minute or two, so that we get to see it like evolve and change. And right.
Vulcan Rumble's asking you, Barbecue, what's a good price for brisket?
Free.
Um,
$1
Depends
a
on
pound
if you're
would be
getting
excellent.
right. Depends on if you're getting choice or prime. There have been times where I've seen choice and prime the same price, which just blows my mind. I'm like, why would anybody buy choice brisket at that point? But typically around here in PA, I can normally find it for like $4.99 a pound on sale, which is pretty darn good price. But Vulcan, you said, is in Mass, right?
I
Yes.
think so.
So like that could vary. Like Two Live Moo makes me have a heart attack every time he tells me about meat prices there in Michigan. I'm like, what? It's insane. Because they'll be $2 or $3 a pound more than what they are here sometimes. I'm like, that's just holy cow. But yeah, I'd say probably around
Everything in Michigan has to be driven all the way out into the peninsula, so they have to account for that.
perhaps. But yeah, I'd say, $5 a pound would be good. If it's choice, I would look for it at $3.99, maybe $4.50 a pound at very most.
What's the difference between choice and prime?
Just the grade of the beef.
And
How do they grade it?
Yeah, what the hell?
Well, let's say the cow has to take literacy tests before it's slaughtered.
Yeah. The smartest
And-
ones get grade A, and then the next smartest get grade B. And
Let's say
Like
the
the
choice
amount of
ones can
fat
only
or something?
enter.
Or the shape? Well, the shape
Yeah,
is by how you cut it, right?
No,
What is the brisket anyway? The end of the
the
ribs?
brisket, it's kind of like the breast muscle. If you ever see cows that kind of have that big sway in the front of them,
Oh, really?
below the
That's-
neck, yeah, that's the brisket there.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of marbling to it, especially in the point of the brisket.
It's like,
The
does
flat,
that cow
not
have
so
a
much.
big cancer growth on it? No, that's a goiter. Like, I'm going to eat it. Let's eat that.
They're delicious.
But anyway, so like the marbling and shit, or is it the size?
Yeah, like the point of the brisket, because there's two different muscles. You got the flat and you got the point. They're pretty easy to distinguish because the flat's flat and the point comes to a point. Like really creative names there, right? So, and they'll be about 50-50 of the size of the entire brisket if you get a packer brisket, because you can also purchase briskets just the point or just the flat. But if you get a whole packer brisket, that is going to be the point and the flat together. And
So when you're buying a brisket, are you eating the whole piece of that cow or half of it?
depends on where. So if you buy a whole brisket, you're getting two separate muscles together.
Like the
then
left
when
and
you
right side or whatever?
no. It's so there's two briskets on a cow. So you would have a left brisket or a right brisket, but with that, each of those has a flat and a point of its own. So when you buy a whole brisket, it's not actually a whole brisket. It's like buying chicken wings. You're not getting a whole chicken wing. You're getting a third of a chicken wing.
And then
But
you
when
said
they say
$3
whole
a
brisket,
pound, but like when you buy a full one, both sides, or not both sides, but like both pieces, is that 10 pounds or is that like 30 pounds or is that 5?
it depends on the size of the cow. It can be anywhere from 10 pounds. I've seen 25-pound briskets. Some people make the argument that the heavier the brisket that you go with, the more waste you have, because you want to trim it up. You only want like a 1/4 inch of fat on the back side of it to render down. When
So
that
this
happens,
This is muscle that the cow's using all the time, so it's gross.
No. They don't really use it at all.
Oh, okay. It's like the
So-
veal of the cow then.
You could say that. But you also have to make sure you cut it right, because if you don't cut it right, you've got to cut against the grain. That way it'll just pull apart in your mouth. But if you cut with the grain, then it's super chewy and dense, and it's a nightmare.
There's a bunch of meat like that.
After you cook the brisket, it's really easy to separate the point and the flat. I've actually had briskets, if you do them well, there's times where you can just slide your hand in between the point and the flat and separate them. Other times you need to take a knife and just cut it nicely, and it just goes through like warm butter. But yeah, for Vulcan again, $5 a pound for prime brisket on sale, I think is a good price, at least around here. If it's not on sale, you might be looking upwards of $6.99 a pound.
So then he's saying, what about if you cooked it? How much does it cost once you cooked it?
Like if he's looking to get one that is already cooked.
Well, I think he's asking you.
Yeah, like how much
do you charge?
Well, one depends on if I buy the brisket, which is my choice to do, because people don't buy good meat. But so if I'm going to buy the brisket, that's going to partly depend on the size of the brisket, things like that, what I'm going to charge. But ideally, I'm going to look to double my money. Now, somebody that is running a legit business, and I got out of the catering thing this past year, even though somehow I managed to do 3 gigs this year. Still, I need to learn to say no. I digress. But somebody that has all the hoops that your state requires and all the certifications and BS, they could be looking to make 3 to 4 times what that brisket costs them to purchase.
That washes their hands and uses refrigerators and all that.
Yep. I like to go find roadkill before I prep my briskets. I find that's
pre-tenderized.
Yes. Like you haven't lived until you have tenderized a brisket with roadkill skunk.
Really, you don't need aromatics.
No,
when you cook
no.
it.
People were like, "This is delicious. What's your secret?" I was like, "You don't want to know." But yeah, I'd normally be looking to make at least double. If I don't like the person, or if I just don't know the person, I'm gonna try and push for triple my money. But that's also because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't know, that's a little much." And it doesn't matter if I started off at the price of the brisket or told them 10 times the price of the brisket. It's always the same thing. "Oh, I don't know, that seems a little much for us." And I'm just like, well, so I start a little high and then try and make them feel like they're getting a deal.
Should you be cooking when you're high?
I mean, yeah, it's just ayahuasca.
Wow. Well, probably don't know what you're cooking then.
I cook with the spirits.
Spirit cooking. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There was a barbecue place. It wasn't open very long because they did not manage their business well. But I didn't like the barbecue when it was warm, but after it was cold, I thought it tasted twice as good. Sure.
I've heard of places like that. I mean, heck, I know pizza places like that where I'm like, this is delicious.
They used to have a lot of private parties, and I think that's what drove them out of business, because you could never buy anything from them because they're always closed for private parties.
Interesting.
I don't know. Might have been like there was a Chinese joint, which was pretty good, and there was never anybody there. I'm pretty sure it was a front company for Mexican Mafia, but
But takeout places, you're only in there for like however long it takes you to pay, and then you're out of there. They rarely have a line.
I don't know. They were open for a few years, and then became a frozen yogurt place, the TCBY, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
for a couple years, and then I think they went out of business. But Gary,
Yes.
why don't you plug something?
Oh gosh. Okay, well, I guess I got a show coming up on Friday. You could go watch it if you want to. It's 9 o'clock Central. It's called Foul Territory. Might be cool. Might talk about firearms, freedom, and fun stuff. And
All about
Give away-
giving them the bird.
give away some stuff, giving them the bird, showing some Gorn, lots and lots of Gorn, and all that kind of cool stuff. So, yeah, check that out. Foul Territory, Friday night at 9. And see, I had a couple knife reviews come out today, so check those out. 2 new Civivi knives, actually yesterday by the time this airs. So, anyway, check those out on my channel, and just like Foss, go shopping.
Barbecue, anything you want to plug?
Well, first I'd like to thank Vulcan for the brisket question, just because I don't get to nerd out about barbecue very often anymore. So, I mean, it's still fun to do. So appreciate that. Hope it was helpful as well. I'm going to start making some videos here soon. I know I say that a lot, but I really am. I finally hit 1,850 subs, and I do want to hit 2,000 by the end of the year and beat Rich White before he gets to 500. So with that, I've got to start doing some work. So I am going to start recording some videos. Nothing that I actually had planned to record, like the Open Carry Chronicles or anything like that, because the audio just sounds awful in those. So I'm still trying to find a lovelier mic I want to use. But yeah, check out Gary's show on Friday, because it's going to have Gorn, the best Gorn, all the Gorn, the greatest Gorn you've ever seen. Thanks for the invite.
It's huge.
Mr. Bob Doubleina said, if people are familiar with St. Louis food scene, Ted Drew passed away. He was 93 and ran a frozen custard place that had 5 lines from the windows to the street most nights.
That's a lot of ice cream.
Caucasian Sasquatch is sneaking in here right at the end. Barbecue, what is your favorite off-the-shelf barbecue sauce?
Off the shelf, Kinder's. I found that, I think, about a year ago, and it is amazing. It's KINDER''S, or there might not be an apostrophe S. It might just be Kinder's, as in like it's their last name. But either way, they've got a lot of sauces. Some of them I'm not so crazy about. I've been trying a lot of different ones, but like I think they have a hickory brown sugar is incredible. They
have a bunch of flavors.
Fire roasted jalapeno. Oh my god, that one is my absolute favorite. That one's not really a barbecue sauce, but it's an incredible sauce. It's good on so many things. It's a great burger sauce. Yeah, Kinder's is crushing it. They've got great seasonings. Like, if I'm a person that pretty much any barbecue sauce I will doctor up a little bit to get the flavor profile I want. I do not mess with Kinder's. It is the real deal. That is some good stuff.
So thank you to everybody that was out there in the live chat. If you watch this replay, leave a comment. whatever we talked about. Agree with, disagree with. Have you seen a ghost? What's your favorite barbecue sauce? I read all the comments. They are always appreciated. And there should be an overnight this weekend. Once again, I had thought of a topic and have forgotten what I thought up. So we'll talk about something. Other than that, once again, I appreciate everybody. Hope everyone has a good rest of the night and go do something good.